And what should agriculture in particular expect from a Harris presidency, and how could that differ from a Biden presidency?
Look, I think one of the things that we've got to look forward to going forward is the increasing uncertainty in the markets. I hear that from our producers back home, that we need to make sure that we're doing what's right to solidify the export markets, to decrease the amount of time it takes for us to export. But then also, a lot of folks back home and in the agriculture sector are worried about what happens on the world stage. Back home in Illinois, Illinois is one of the leaders in producing corn and soy. We do it so well in this part of the world because this is some of the most fertile land in the world, between Chicago and Des Moines, Iowa. This is the place not only where we have fertile soil, but as the only meteorologist in Congress, understanding that this is the place where we have the even amount of seasons to help keep that fertility in the soil. And so as we are really good in growing, we also have to make sure that there's a market there for selling.
Analysts have said that rural voters in swing states this year are particularly focused on more national issues. So in your opinion, what do you think are some of the biggest issues for rural voters, and particularly your voters in Illinois' 17th district?
Yeah, I actually spend more time in small towns, where the population sign is 1,000. I spend more time there than I do in the big cities like Rockford and Peoria. And I think we have to have a focus on our small communities because, not only are our farm families, in my district and around the Midwest so important, and we have to make sure that these communities are too. So it's making sure, what are we doing to make sure that it isn't just a grain elevator that is supplying jobs in our small towns? How are we making sure that, the small town medical clinic works? How are we making sure that the small town machine shop works? How are we making sure that there are teachers for the schools? Those are the things that we've got to focus on in Middle America, as opposed to some that only just want to argue, whatever the social issue is of the day. I'm not about that. I'm just about finding the solutions for small town Middle America.
And Aggies and farmers have repeatedly told us that getting a farm bill is a big priority, and you were one of 4 Democrats to vote in favor of the House Farm Bill. What ultimately swung you to vote in favor of it?
Yeah, since I came to Congress, I made sure that I was listening to the folks back home. I don't have a background in politics, being the meteorologist, right? And so I will be honest with you, I'm not comfortable listening to the people here in Washington to guide me. I have to listen to the people back home. And so one of the things that they were telling me is we have to make sure that we're bolstering crop insurance. Crop insurance so important. As I know, we're getting more times of extreme weather, but then we're getting more times of drought in between. And so it is harder today, in many instances, to make it go. So making sure that crop insurance is stable is important. And then going back to the farm families and Farm Bureau and saying, hey, now that we have text, what do you think of this? Is this good enough for you? And then when they said, yes, it is good enough for us, it's not perfect. We want to make sure that we continue to move it forward. Okay. And then I was a yes vote because my constituents told me to be a yes vote. Nobody else did. And looking back on it, it was the right decision because I had earned the trust of the people for 20 years, being their weatherman, right? If I would have heard from them, yes, it's good enough, Congressman, and then I voted no, then I wouldn't be listening to them. I wouldn't be putting them first. And then I would lose the trust of the people in that very first committee markup vote.